The Spexi Network in and of itself is the Earth imaging protocol. So if you own the compatible drone that works with the protocol and the protocol's working in the city that you're in, you can download the mobile app and just start capturing imagery based on this hexagon system. We certainly believe that crypto economics and the future of this network will be most exciting and most valuable and most useful flipping to a DePIN network, flipping the switch to get into crypto economics and having the whole protocol be token incentivized.
This episode is brought to you by Polygon Labs. They have one of the largest DePIN ecosystems out there, including projects like Demo, GeoDNet, and Wi-Fi Map, and they're building the next generation of open source, zero-knowledge tech. Through the ag layer, they're unifying liquidity and user bases, allowing developers to build an interoperable web of unified chains. Visit polygon.technology/grants to apply for funding today. So you are the COO at Spexi Network. It's a drone mapping company, one that I'm super excited about. I would say one of like the hottest pre-TGE DePINs. So give maybe not the crypto native version, but like the taxi driver or Alec's grandma explanation of what you guys are building and why like the everyday kind of average person should care.
Yeah, for sure. So the Earth imaging space is massive, multi-billion-dollar space where, you have satellites circling the Earth 24/7, imaging the planet for a ton of different use cases, from like government research down to like, insurance and construction and all of these different kind of use cases, AI, metaverse stuff. But the imagery only gets to a certain quality. It only gets to about 30 centimeters per pixel represented on the Earth for satellites. So it's not very detailed, relatively speaking. 30 centimeters, think about it. It's like that's like one of the pixels in an image, right? Then you have planes. It's the next layer down. Planes actually image cities in the Western world yearly. And they do that because they can get, the planes have cameras on the bottom of them and they fly cities in a grid. They fly like all the major cities in the world essentially every year to get a better image data set. So those images are roughly at, between 7 and 10 centimeters a pixel. So it starts to get a little bit better, okay? And then you have drones. And the drone layer, the drones actually can produce much better imagery than satellites or planes, but there's no coordinating protocol or incentive or platform that actually enables people that own drones to contribute to this Earth imaging data set at any kind of scale. And that's where Spexi comes in. So we've been at this for a long time. I'm a helicopter pilot and been in the aviation space for a long time. Was founded a drone regulation and training company that became Canada's largest. And my other founder, Bill, the CEO of Spexi, he flew those airplanes over cities for like 20 years. And so we have this crazy, combination of experience on how this gets done. And we realized early on in our meeting that, we had the combination and the vision to actually create this ultra high resolution base layer of Earth that is contributed by people that own the millions of drones that exist in the world that often don't get that used. And so we thought, there's a huge demand for high resolution imagery, and the demand's only getting more higher resolution. People want more detail. They want to see more things about Earth and have more insights, and not to mention the rise of, recent multimodal AI that is trained on relatively bad Earth imagery. Imagine it could be trained on this ultra high resolution imagery, what kind of insights it could produce. And so the Spexi Network in and of itself is the Earth imaging protocol. So if you own the compatible drone that works with the protocol and the protocol's working in the city that you're in, you can download the mobile app and just start capturing imagery based on this hexagon system. And so an area that needs to be flown over the Earth is divided into hexagons. We call them Spexagons because they have Spexi flight plan data baked into them. And you as the drone pilot, download the mobile app. You can see this map of Spexagons that are available for you to capture. And you simply just get close to them, hit go on your mobile app. Our app takes over the brain of the drone. The drone ascends to the altitude of the Spexagon and it just images that Spexagon. And it images this Spexagon and the next one and the next one the exact same way. And what ends up being produced is an ultra high resolution, fully standardized base layer map of Earth. And from an aerial perspective. So an aerial view of Earth at the highest resolution that's ever been created at any kind of scale. And so if you're a drone pilot, you're interested in this because you love flying drones, but sometimes you don't, either you're not a professional drone pilot, or if you are a professional drone pilot, you can't always fill your schedule. And so this is a great way to just go out and get active and earn on the side as you're having fun flying autonomous missions with your drone. That imagery gets uploaded to the network, and then the customers on the other end can access that imagery either in its raw format through an API, so it can just consume the raw imagery into their own products. Like, for example, an insurance company like Verisk would consume raw data into their applications to be able to do a bunch of different things with it. Or they can consume the more processed products, which Spexi is able to produce on top of the protocol. So we can consume that imagery and create like ultra, high resolution interactive panoramas or 3D point clouds or orthomosaic data products that, get laid over Google Maps and things like that. And so there's a bunch of different ways to consume it, but ultimately this is producing the highest resolution Earth imagery at any kind of scale over urban areas. And it's a net new data set. So it's really exciting from a customer's perspective, because if they're interested in Earth imagery, they've already purchased it. There's all of these new things you can do with better data, but also from the drone pilot's perspective, nothing like this has ever existed with this kind of opportunity. So it's kind of this two-sided thing that gets really exciting when you start thinking about it from the supply and the demand side.
For sure. Yeah. When DePINs create net new services or products or data sets, I think is when it's the most interesting, not just like a cheaper service, or a lower latency service, but it's like this data set doesn't exist yet. I mean, I think it makes sense that edge devices like drones, like, lower CapEx, there's more of them. They're closer to the earth, can produce more, I guess, more accurate or, just better imagery of the earth. But it's all, then therein lies the challenge of like coordinating all those people, right? Like, and that's where you guys come in. I think it also makes a lot of sense to tap into the latent supply of hardware out there. So you guys aren't asking people to buy new drones necessarily, right? There's millions of people that own drones, probably underutilized as an asset class. And you are kind of providing an opportunity for them to earn money. So yeah, super exciting. That was a great overview just of the whole, company and process, I would say. How has growing the supply side been? So maybe any kind of numbers around active pilots / waitlist you could give us. And also, like, have they been receptive? How has paying out, Canadian dollars been versus tokens versus points versus anything else?
Yeah, good question. The network decides a new region should be open because there's demand or other reasons, that we need data in a region. Like take San Francisco, for example. The network's currently operating in San Francisco, just San Francisco proper to start. So what we would do is we would go in and start advertising in that area with Google and Facebook ads to get people that own drones to sign up to the top of the onboarding funnel. And so they basically, click the ad, give us their email, the type of drone they have, things they're interested in, and then they start working their way through the funnel to get onboarded into the network. That onboarding right now is more friction filled than probably we would like it to be at scale, but there's good reason for that, because we're still learning about the supply side and wanting to, flying drones with software over cities at large scales is not simple. And so, making sure that it's not just anybody that's doing this, that they have some level of experience to start as the network starts to expand. So, for a given city, like, take Austin, Texas, for example, the network's also there right now. There's, anywhere from 30 to 50 pilots flying in that city, or that flew that city with hundreds on the wait list. Even I think there were 600 or 700 pilots that ended up being on the wait list in Austin, Texas. And we ended up getting like 30 to 50 of them going and just really flying. And they flew Austin in a couple of weeks, full coverage. That's the other thing about Spexi Network. Like it optimizes for full coverage very quickly. So it's not just like, oh, get this and get that and hope for the best. It's like the whole city gets covered, and that's really valuable to the customers.
If you're a drone pilot, how do you get chosen? Is there like an application interview process, or how do I get off the list?
No, it's kind of first come, first served. Like okay. if you're sort of, if you, like, it's very low credentials at this point to get in. Like you need to have the right kind of drone. You need to, in the States, you need a Part 107 drone pilot's license, which is, just law of the land. This is a commercial activity as a drone. So as a drone pilot, so if you want to earn anything with a drone in the United States, you need a Part 107 license. That's not the case in Canada, actually. In Canada, you don't need a license. In Canada, it depends on the weight of the drone that you fly. Then you need a license depending on how heavy it is. So, and different countries differ like that. So there's some nuance there that we have to navigate, which is interesting.
Yeah.
But in the States, if you have, if you're good to go, you have the right drone, which there's, thousands and thousands. I mean, I think there's like close to 1 million people in the United States with a Part 107 license now. And if not more. So it's like, like there's thousands and thousands of drones being flown in the United States daily, without the Spexi network. It's not like we're, changing any of that. It's more just tapping into some of those folks that want to earn in a different way. So yeah, we have, depending on the cities we're in, some cities have thousands of people on the wait list. Some cities have hundreds. It really depends on where we are, but we've definitely struck a chord on the supply side. Like the pilots that fly and get good at flying at this network, they fly a lot and they love it. And they even are willing to like travel to different places where the Spexi network's opening. For example, we had a pilot from Austin fly to SF because he was like, hey, like I did my corner of Austin. I want to go to SF and I've never been to SF. So we were like, cool, that's great. In terms of payment, like, yeah, right now we're paying in cash and points. And that's very intentionally. We're still learning a lot about the supply and the demand side of this network. Tokens have so much value and interest and excitement and scalability, but they can also complicate things if it's done a little bit too early or without all of the things that you feel like you might need to have in place. And so, we're paying in cash in Canada and the US and the other countries that we roll into. That's through a Stripe integration. So it's just like you just set it up and then you're just direct deposited cash into your bank account. Which, a lot of people like don't realize how hard it is to pay with fiat, like especially across borders. Yeah. It's like crypto is such a better payment technology. Like we truly didn't realize how hard it would be to actually pay with fiat, like across borders, as being a Canadian company. And then they also earn points, and points give them some utility on the network. So the more points, every Spexagon you fly and successfully upload imagery, there's ways to not successfully upload imagery if you've tried to spoof it, or if it's bad imagery, we have checks and balances there. But if you upload successful imagery and it gets verified by the network, then you also get points. They're called reputation points, or RPs on the network. The more points you have, the more Spexagons you can reserve for future capture. Like if you want to fly a certain place in a certain area, you can actually reserve it. The more points you have. But we also plan or intend to have them be part of a token distribution event in the future. And, a lot of TBD on that still. And there's not much detail that I can provide, but Spexi plans to have a token at some point, and points are intended to play a role in that.
Gotcha. No, it's super cool. I mean, I love the reputation part. I think it's you're not requiring the pilots to put up a financial stake to potentially beat them into submission if they do something wrong. It's more like a future potential financial, I guess, incentive or stick, right? It's like if they should put their, not money where their mouth is, but if they want to potentially map in the future and earn rewards, like they should behave in a good way, which means not spoofing the network and just uploading like real data. So it's like kind of like trust over time, right? Like the more good things they do, the more you think you can trust them into the future to act in a way that benefits the network.
Yeah. And I mean, also like we have some pretty significant demand on the network. So like the cash that we're paying, a lot of it is paid out under contract from customers. So like, it's not, some of it we're funding for sure to learn more and expand and to get into new regions. But the majority of the data, the vast majority of the Spexagons flown on our network to date have been funded by customers under contract. So it's also like we're able to pay in cash at this stage too, because there's actually, there's real demand coming in. There's a lot of need and want for this data set and how it's being delivered to them. And so, we're able, I think we're maybe somewhat unique in that, like, we don't need to rush to a token. We have the cash flows in place and the customers in place that we can continue to scale, as we're burning. We certainly believe that crypto economics and the future of this network will be most exciting and most valuable, and most useful flipping to a DePIN network, flipping the switch to get into crypto economics and having the whole, protocol be token incentivized. But we still feel like there's more to learn. We want to make sure that we've got more of the behaviors in place and really just kind of thought about in the background before we flip the switch to crypto. And there's also, regulatory clarity that we're hoping to continue to achieve as time goes on. this election in the United States is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Both candidates are now, saying they have crypto policy. We'll see what actually happens.
Yeah.
But like there's just, it's still a space that is not very clear. And although we feel like we probably now have the clarity that we could move quite quickly if we needed to, but time is helpful in that situation, because if there is clarity that comes out, in the months, a month after the election, it would be really nice to be able to adjust our system to fall within that before it's out in the world of smart contracts, and then we have to change it in a much harder way.
Fair. I mean, yeah, at this point, especially if you've got a couple $1 million of revenue coming in, like you're sustaining yourselves, like you might as well wait to see what the outcome of the election is and then make a decision from there. Because unfortunately, I think it will be pretty impactful one way or another. We've got a couple minutes left. Let's just talk about a little more on demand side real quick. So yeah, I think it's fantastic. You guys have 7, plus figures of revenue pre-TG. That's pretty much unheard of in DePIN. What are maybe either some of those customers, or if you can't name names, like what are some of the customer profiles that have actually paid for data or services from Spexi?
Sure. So the cities that we fly, those municipalities themselves actually spend a lot of money on aerial imagery already. It's either satellite or fixed wing imagery. And they do that because it really helps them to make better decisions about their city, how to manage it, how to respond to things, how to deploy resources. And so our imagery is high resolution, so it's better detailed. It can be updated more frequently at a very similar, even lower cost to what they already pay. And a good chunk of the cash goes back into the community, right? Back into the local drone pilots. Whereas before they would pay a satellite company. I mean, that money's gone. It's gone to some satellite company, God knows where. So it's a really interesting opportunity for them. Like they love it. And so most of the cities that we're in are actually paying for the data. And it's a great first customer because they also want regional coverage. And so they don't just want a few spots of places. They want the whole city covered because it's their city. So we have multiple cities paying for data already. The governments, whether at the state, provincial, or federal level, we have contracts with them, mostly at the federal level right now, but some working on the state, provincial level. They are very interested in the emergency response and preparedness use cases with this imagery. So how do we better plan and respond to wildfire? How do we better plan and respond to flood or hurricane? And it starts with a good base level of data. So getting in the network, going in there first, getting it up and running, getting imagery flowing. So you have a better understanding of what's there at that detail. And then if something were to happen, you can then activate the network again quickly to very quickly get a better understanding of what's changed. So what's been burnt, what's been drowned, what's been removed. And so the federal government of Canada specifically has flexed hard on emergency response and preparedness with us. But then I think the most interesting and exciting go-to-markets and use cases for this imagery lie in the metaverse AI space. So we have some fairly large metaverse customers that, see this as like the best way to digital twin the Earth, and to then take those twins and pull them into their applications. And so we're doing some tests with them now. And same with the AI space. I mean, the multimodal LLMs are always looking for better, more detailed training data. And we think we have a really good use case for that. So, it's kind of across the board. You also have like the insurance companies and more of the verticalized private enterprise that are big consumers of imagery, but we're focusing in on a few of those sectors now.
Yeah, there's like the old world customers and the new world customers almost. But yeah. Alec, I think we are at time. I want to thank you so much for coming on again. Glad we got this done. No technical snafus this time.
Yeah, thanks, Connor. Absolutely. Okay, man.
Thanks for listening to the Proof of Coverage podcast. We post new episodes Mondays and Wednesdays, interviewing the best DePIN and crypto founders out there. If you like this episode, follow us on Twitter at CoverageProved and all other platforms, including YouTube and Spotify at Proof of Coverage Podcast. Thank you.